by some twist of fate, I ended up in Vietnam. I started saving money for this trip straight after coming back from Colombia, so since November. However, February, March, and April were shamelessly expensive because I had lots of unplanned trips. For example, I stayed in Georgia almost for a month. I do not regret it, but my bank account was at the point of zero by the time when I had to buy my ticket, and yet, by some magical means, I still somehow made it here. I landed in Hanoi and it's a bit noisy here, so I'm sorry. Well, I'm here for a week and I'm planning to visit some other regions of Vietnam also, like Ninh Binh. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but I'm going to put some pictures from the trip here. Right now I'm headed for a lunch, and it's so hard every time to go for lunch or for coffee or just go outside as far as it is plus 40 degrees above the 0 Celsius. Oh gosh, it's hot. Yeah, I mean it. I've decided to have a banh mi for lunch. It's something like a French sandwich in a baguette, right? But they have modified it a lot, and sorry, they're making so much noises. Wait till the lunch. Standing here feels like stepping out of the noise of modern Hanoi. You know, that motorbikes, the markets, the constant hum of the city that never quite slows down, and into something much older, something that breathes differently, you know. I'm visiting the Temple of Literature, built in 1070s, dedicated to Confucius and the scholars who shaped Vietnamese civilization. Just 6 years after it was founded, it became home to the country's first national university. There generations of students studied poetry, philosophy, and governance for nearly 700 years. What strikes you first is the stillness. 5 courtyards, each one drawing you deeper inside. Stone turtles carrying the names of doctoral graduates, lotus ponds reflecting the sky, ancient gateway that frame the world like a painting, you know. Every detail here was designed to make you feel small in the best possible way. For Vietnamese, this place isn't just history, it's a living symbol of the belief that knowledge is sacred, that learning is worth honoring in the stone and ritual. Students still come here before exams to pray for wisdom, just as they did 1,000 years ago. It's so unusual to find such a quiet place for Hanoi. For me, Indochina feels like childhood friend's home. When I was little, my parents and I we traveled a lot to Vietnam and Thailand. I can also add Singapore, Cambodia, and Indonesia to that list. And I have even studied Chinese in second, middle school in Shanghai. Can you imagine? Basically, my whole childhood somehow connected to Asia, and after such a long break, 8 years, the moment I stepped out of the plane and the humidity I felt, it was such a sweet and nostalgic feeling, you know. And I'm so happy to be back here, even if it's my first time in Hanoi. Everything feels painfully familiar. Chin chin to traveling. Vietnam is globally renowned for its vibrant street food culture, including pho bo, pho ga, and banh mi, bold coffee, breathtaking natural landscapes like banh mi, and by the way, I have another video about our 2 day trip there, where I had more like retreat vibe with the spectacular hotels and not only touristic places. And this country is known for a rich, resilient history. But where does this resilience actually come from? Vietnam's identity has shaped by centuries of outside pressure, over 1,000 years of strong Chinese influence, and then the French colonization that brought Catholicism, baguette. Yes, that's where the banh mi comes from. I've told you about that at the beginning. And some part of architecture as you still see in Hanoi today. And yet, despite absorbing all of it, Vietnam has never quite become anyone else. It filtered every influence through its own lens and then on its own terms, choose a communist path it still follows today, while quietly building one of the fastest growing economies in Asia. We girls might not be the most educated, but one thing you cannot take from us is our determination to change that. So I'm terribly ashamed to admit that I know next to nothing about Ho Chi Minh, but I am in love with all these excursions and city guides, city tours, all those guided stuff that connects you closer to the narrative of the city, of the country. So I've searched a bit and find out that I can go by my own to the Ho Chi Minh Museum and Mausoleum. So let's go. To understand Vietnam, you need to understand Ho Chi Minh. It's not just a historical figure, but it's a feeling that still runs through this country today. He led Vietnam through its fight for independence from France, then through the war against the United States, and became a symbol of a united, free Vietnam. Even though he died in 1969, 6 years before the war actually ended. In communist ideology, the leader isn't just a politician. He's the embodiment of the nation's will, its struggles, and its future. That's why his face is on a currency, his name is on a city, and his body is still here. Preserved, visited, and treated with a reverence that feels closer to religion than politics. And I visited him on his birthday! The experience started before you even see the mausoleum. The whole process is remarkably well organized, quite structured, almost ceremonial. It immediately tells you something about how seriously this country takes this man, even now, more than 50 years after his death. The building itself stopped me before I even walked in. It stripped classicism in a very modern execution, massive, geometrical, impossibly clean lines, not cold exactly, but monumental in a way that makes you feel small on purpose. Inside, the soldiers were everywhere, and here's what I didn't expect: they were so warm. The visit was very short, we just went through the mausoleum, we saw the body, and then we left. And we left for a birthday cake. Yeah, that sounds awkward, but I happened to visit on May 19th, Ho Chi Minh's birthday, which meant the entire complex was free that day. At the end of the visit, volunteers and soldiers handed out cupcakes, milk and water to everyone. I stood there eating birthday cake for a man born in 1890, surrounded by school children and soldiers, and thought probably this can happen only in Vietnam. Because it was a public holiday, most staff had a day off, which meant no guided tours and no audio guides. So I explored on my own the houses where he lived and worked, the gardens, the grounds. The exhibition texts themselves weren't always the most informative. If you didn't already know the history, I was googling constantly, but honestly, the captions there were their own kind of experience. Yes, Ho Chi Minh left his homeland, but only to find a way to make it better. Happy workers received land from Ho Chi Minh. They are deeply grateful for his generosity. Vietnam won his battle for freedom, as Ho Chi Minh always believed it would. Every single caption was written to tell you exactly how you have to feel before you actually have a chance to feel anything yourself. At first you read them with a smile, it's almost charming how earnest it is. But by the time you leave, something has quietly accumulated. You walk out with a full warm sense of a man who was practically a saint. And I guess this is the point. This is the whole point of this museum. I mean, this is the whole point of such a big figure in a communist ideology, you know? It was exactly the same with Lenin in Soviet Union, so I fully understand how does it look like. But I wish it would be more informative for tourists and guides. And after all that educational part, I think I have earned my last day. Because at the end of the day, I'm just a girl who lives in her own world. And my world includes balance. A little cultural education, a little joy, and a lot of good food. So, last day in Hanoi. It started the way it had to, with egg yolk coffee. It's very famous in TikTok and all in all. If you haven't tried it, please fix it immediately. Well, I came to the very famous egg yolk coffee. This is how they serve their drink. And they even have a note how to drink it properly. Like the instruction. Let's read it. What is it here? Well, how to crack into egg coffee. Begin by testing the freshly whipped egg yolk to experience the fresh and creamy bliss. Pour the freshly brewed espresso shot into the egg cream and as much as you want. Okay. Using a spoon, gently mix the espresso and egg cream until fully combined. And enjoy the drink or pair it with wonderful selection of pastries, cakes and banh mi. What I'm going to do with a salty egg inside. Croissant. So let's try. Actually very tasty. Then banh mi, my forever favorite lunch that I just can't grab on my way for my bookings. I went to the spa. I'd booked just one day ahead and they still had a place for me, which already felt like a good sign. 3.5 hours of full body rituals, foot massage, scrub, deep tissue massage. You know, the one that the Vietnamese ladies do. They're tiny ladies, literally walk on your back and crack every single vertebra back into place. And accidentally, I fell asleep. Yeah, I had a nap somehow, but no regrets, girls. Then facial, and it ended up being very relaxing experience. It was very personalized because beforehand I've been choosing the oils I can smell after and noting down the pressure and the parts of my body I want to be worked on better. Straight after that, I ran for my next booking to get my bangs trimmed at the salon that is very famous in TikTok. To tell the truth, I was a bit disappointed with the hygiene, but maybe not to be. I was very disappointed with the hygiene. I haven't filmed that, but I just wanted it to be right, very simple. I just wanted 1 centimeter shorter. So the result is exactly what I wanted. Moving on. For the last year, I went back to the Michelin star restaurant that I have already visited. Not because the food was extremely good, but just because the view is great. I love the patio there. And it was very simple and nice. I mean, the place that I trust. So I had the dinner, it was very simple. Vietnamese style. I had a nice chat with my partner with whom I came to Vietnam and showed him every souvenir I bought. And post factum making this editing, I have to tell you that seems like I bought these souvenirs for myself because I could not gift it to anyone and I just left it with me. I love using all those in my day-to-day life and I'm feeling very satisfied with that decision, okay? We walked, we bought some more souvenirs. I found the most wonderful shop for that. The quality is great, everything is handmade. The choice is really big. It's not very souvenir thing, you know. It's all about associations, the things that you actually can use in your life, have a small memory from your trip in your day-to-day life. And that was Hanoi. I'm genuinely glad this is not goodbye. We are planning to come back at least once a year, but if this time I have visited Ninh Binh, and by the way, I'm reminding you, there is a video of Ninh Binh that is going to calm down your nerve system. There is no talking, it's only picturesque scenes of nature and the sounds of rain, of heavy rain. So maybe next time I'm visiting not only Hanoi and Ninh Binh, but I will also focus on other regions as far as I want to explore more. And maybe you know what shall I explore. So I'm waiting you in the comments with your recommendations for my next trip. And thank you for watching. I guess see you in the next one. Love you. Bye.